So let's start. Um, we need to start a new series with God's plan, right? Uh, Showing how God had laid out his plans from the beginning. And I think the book of Ruth would do real good in this series. The book of Ruth will show a woman that is desolate, right? Um, and a redeemer who restores what she has lost back unto her. And this will be an understanding to the woman that we see in Revelation, and the woman who was left desolate. You'll see that in Matthew chapter 23. You can read of that. According is more at the end of the chapter there. So Ruth is in the time of Judges. Now Judges is after Moses and Exodus. Now Israel has formed itself as a nation. The wars are somewhat over, and it's a time where God has set up judges to have them to judge what is fair for the people. And as you see in verse 1 here, there's a famine laid out in the land. Now, Naomi and her husband and her two sons are going to journey over to Moab because of this famine, right? And so they do. And you'll see in verse 2 here, and they come into the country of Moab, and continued there. Now, Naomi's husbands died, right, in verse 3 here. And so it just left her two sons, and if you'll look in verse 5, they die as well, right? So to redeem a land, and they would have had a land in Israel gifted to them, and that land was to stay in their family forever, as long as they produced a male child. So this woman here, Naomi, is now left desolate. She is in a foreign country, and even if she returns back unto her house, it's not her house. She has no male child to restore the land back unto her, and she's going to get to that in a minute. Now, in verse 6, you'll see where Naomi arose with her daughters-in-law, that she might return from the country of Moab, right? For the Lord has given them bread back in Israel. The famine seems to be over and going to be restored. The land is going to be restored. The rains are coming, right? So there she goes forth out of the place where she was, her two daughters-in-law with her, and they went on the way to return to the land of Judah, where they had come from. Naomi said to her two daughters-in-law, "Return each to your mother's house." Right. Okay. Naomi is going to try to explain to these two daughters-in-law. Now, the two daughters-in-law are going to be representative of two Jerusalems. Okay. There is going to be one daughter-in-law that stays with her, and this can be or may be a representative of the bride of Christ. Okay? And there's going to be one daughter-in-law who says, this is just too hard. I'm not going to be able to make it or endure until the end of this, right? So the other daughter-in-law is going to return back to her formal self and worship her formal gods and live like she used to live before meeting Naomi and her sons, right? So look at the relationship Naomi has with these two daughters-in-law. She loves them. She loves not just one of them, but she loves both of them. She is crying out in her voice in verse 9, and she is weeping. She is hurting inside that God has put this upon her, right? And we'll read of that a little further down. In 10, she says, they say unto her, surely we will return with thee unto thy people, right? So both daughters here are willing, right? Now Naomi is going to say to them, right, in verse 11 here, there yet sons in my wombs, right? So she's getting at the explaining of the land, that there's no son in her wombs to give them a sustainable life where they're fixing to go. It's different. It's not the same. In verse 12, she said, if I should say I have hope, I should have an husband also tonight, and should also bear sons, right? For them to marry. And she's going to say, would you wait for them to be of age? You know, would you endure until the coming, of age where this boy could be their husband? And 13, will you tarry for them till they were grown? Would ye stay for them for having